Workers serving under Pharaoh Djoser are nearing completion on one of the largest construction projects of the ancient world, a pyramid. We now know how the ancient Egyptians cut granite. Not a theory, not a guess, and not the explanation Egyptologists have repeated for 100 years, but the actual method. And the proof did not come from an archaeology lab. It came from a scanning electron microscope in a tribology research facility where Dr. Masoud Gharb, a materials scientist who had never worked in Egyptology, magnified the cut surface of a 4,000-year-old granite block and found something that should not have been there. He found corundum aluminum oxide, the same mineral that forms rubies and sapphires. It ranks 9 on the Mohs hardness scale, second only to diamond. On that scale, diamond sits at the top, and right below it is aluminum oxide. That is one reason aluminum oxide is used so widely today, and one reason the warranties on tools that use it are often so strong. What made this discovery extraordinary was where it was found embedded deep inside ancient cutting grooves, where every Egyptologist in the world expected to find nothing more than ordinary sand and copper residue. One discovery, one mineral, and 40 years of academic dismissal collapsed overnight. Graham Hancock brought the proof, and by the end of this video you will see exactly what he found. Here is the real issue. The pyramids themselves are not the greatest mystery of ancient Egypt. Most of those structures are made of limestone, and we can explain how they were built. The real mystery, the one that has haunted engineers and stonemasons for more than a century, is the granite. Granite ranks 6 to 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. It is made of quartz feldspar and mica minerals, so resistant to cutting that even today, with diamond-tipped power tools, working granite is slow, expensive, and brutal. And yet the ancient Egyptians shaped it as if it were clay. The king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid is built entirely of granite blocks, some weighing more than 70 tons. The Valley Temple at Giza contains massive granite pieces fitted so precisely that you cannot slide a razor blade between the joints. Statues carved from single blocks display surface details so fine they appear machined. Drill cores recovered from ancient sites show spiral grooves descending into solid stone at feed rates that make modern engineers stop and stare. Chris Dunn, a manufacturing engineer with more than 40 years of precision machining experience, examined ancient Egyptian granite artifacts firsthand. His reaction was visceral. He said the tolerances he observed, surfaces flat to within 1,000th of an inch across several meters, drill holes perfectly circular throughout their depth, were not just impressive. They were industrial. He said he had spent his entire career surrounded by CNC machines and precision ground components, and what the ancient Egyptians achieved in granite matched or even exceeded modern manufacturing standards. Not approximately, not loosely, precisely. So what was the official explanation? Copper saws with sand as an abrasive. Dolerite pounders. Patience. But here's the problem. Copper ranks only about 2.5 to 3 on the Mohs scale. Granite's quartz component ranks 7. When you cut a harder material with a softer one, even with abrasive added, the tool destroys itself long before the stone yields. Dennis Stocks, an experimental archaeologist at the University of Manchester, spent years testing copper tools with sand on granite under controlled conditions. The progress was measured in fractions of a millimeter per hour. Copper degraded rapidly, and the resulting cuts were rough and uneven, nothing like the ancient surfaces. Stocks himself admitted that the experiments raised more questions than they answered. Dolerite pounders do work, but at an agonizing pace. Shaping even a small granite surface through percussion takes hundreds of hours. Scale that up to something like the king's chamber, and you are looking at millions of labor hours for granite alone. And neither method explains the precision surfaces flat to 1,000th of an inch drill holes, maintaining perfect circularity through their full depth, and saw cuts running straight and parallel over meters. You do not achieve that with rocks and soft metal. For 40 years, Graham Hancock kept saying exactly this: the physical evidence does not match the conventional explanation. Something is missing. And mainstream archaeology responded the same way every time. Hancock is not formally trained. His theories are fringe, his questions are not worth answering, ignore him. Then he found what was missing. And this is where the story turns. In 2022, Hancock partnered with Dr. Masoud Gharb, a materials scientist specializing in tribology, the study of friction wear and lubrication at a leading research institution. Dr. Gharb had no stake in the debate over ancient Egypt. He was simply a hard scientist interested in a hard problem. They obtained permission to examine ancient Egyptian granite artifacts using scanning electron microscopy and energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy instruments, capable of revealing surface details at molecular levels, far beyond what any optical microscope can show. Dr. Gharb began the examination expecting to find exactly what Egyptologists had always described: sand particles, copper residue, and the chemical fingerprint of brute force abrasion. That is not what he found. The wear patterns were wrong. The scratch signatures did not match sand. And when he isolated what was actually embedded in those 4,000-year-old grooves, he leaned back from the microscope and called Hancock into the lab. It was corundum rating 9 on the Mohs scale, harder than anything in Egypt's natural geology. Modern industry uses synthetic corundum every day to cut some of the hardest materials known to engineering, and it was sitting there, inside cuts made before Rome even existed. But here's the catch. Corundum does not occur naturally in Egypt in any form suitable for industrial use. The nearest major sources lie in regions with which ancient Egypt had trade connections. Yet recognizing the properties of corundum and deliberately incorporating it into cutting slurries is not something you stumble upon by accident. Dr. Gharb was unequivocal. He explained that using corundum effectively requires a sophisticated understanding of mineral hardness. It requires systematic experimentation. It requires grinding the material to specific particle sizes. In his view, this was not lucky improvisation. This was materials science. If that reshapes what you thought you knew about the ancient world, it should. Because the implications were immediate. If the ancient Egyptians were deliberately sourcing corundum from distant trade partners, processing it into calibrated particles, and mixing it into cutting slurries, then they understood materials science at a level mainstream Egyptology had never seriously considered. But a microscope finding is evidence, not proof. Hancock understood the difference, and he knew what had to happen next. He had to replicate it. So in early 2023, Hancock organized controlled experimental trials using granite blocks, copper tools, and 3 different abrasives. He brought together stonemasons and materials scientists to work side by side. They tested sand, the conventional theory, quartz powder slightly harder and available in ancient Egypt, and a corundum quartz slurry, the new hypothesis. The results were not ambiguous. Copper with sand cut at only about 0.5 millimeter per hour. It was painfully slow, caused heavy copper wear, and left rough surfaces. Copper with quartz reached about 0.8 millimeters per hour, marginally better, but still nowhere near ancient precision. Then they switched to the corundum quartz slurry. The cutting rate jumped to over 3 millimeters per hour, 6 times faster than sand. The copper tools lasted dramatically longer. The cuts were smooth, clean, and accurate. And then came the drilling, the part that silenced the room. The experiment produced core samples with spiral grooves matching the exact pattern found in ancient Egyptian drill cores, the same grooves that had baffled engineers for decades, and the same grooves the copper and sand theory had never been able to reproduce. There it was, right on the workshop table, freshly cut into modern granite by what appeared to be ancient methods. Nick Giza, a veteran stonemason with decades of granite experience, described that moment by saying, "Everything changed. The copper stopped fighting the granite and started guiding the abrasive. The cut became smooth, the speed increased dramatically, and tool wear dropped sharply." For the first time in his career, standing in that workshop and watching ancient methods work on modern stone, he felt he could finally see how the ancients had actually done it. But that was not even the most astonishing part. The experiments showed that corundum slurry required real skill. The mixture had to remain at a precise consistency. Too thin and it lost cutting power. Too thick and it clogged the groove. Pressure had to be even. Temperature had to be managed. Every variable mattered. It required master craftsmen who understood their materials intimately, people who had refined their techniques across generations, and passed that knowledge from master to apprentice. That is exactly the kind of specialized workforce you would expect from a civilization capable of engineering the pyramids. At that point, 3 independent lines of evidence were pointing to the same conclusion: microscopic analysis, experimental replication, and material science data. But Hancock knew what would come next because he had been there before. And what happened afterward proved that the biggest obstacle to understanding ancient Egypt is not missing evidence. It is the people who refuse to look at it. Hancock presented his findings at a materials science conference in late 2023. Not an archaeology conference, but a room full of engineers, physicists, and materials scientists who evaluate evidence on its merits. The response was largely positive. Dr. James Harrell, a geological archaeologist who has studied ancient Egyptian quarrying for decades, noted that abrasive slurries do not preserve in the archaeological record. Traces of corundum embedded in cut surfaces may be the best physical evidence we will ever recover. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. When the findings reached mainstream Egyptology, the response fractured. Some archaeologists acknowledged that the hypothesis was plausible and asked fair questions. How much corundum would have been needed? Is there evidence of corundum trade during the relevant dynasties? Could the traces be later contamination? Those are legitimate scientific questions. But a significant part of the academic establishment did not engage with the science at all. They engaged with the name Graham Hancock, the outsider, the man who wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, the man they had spent 40 years calling a pseudoscientist. Their position was clear. Hancock's involvement tainted the findings regardless of their scientific merit. The data did not matter. The replication did not matter. The name on the paper was enough to disqualify it. In a 2024 interview, Hancock addressed this directly. He said Egyptologists told him that even if he was right about the corundum, he should not be the one saying it, that his lack of formal training disqualified him, even when working alongside credentialed scientists with reproducible data. In his view, it was never really about truth. It was about gatekeeping. And that reaction revealed something deeper than any mineral trace. The resistance was never just about evidence. It was about authority, about who gets to rewrite the story of human civilization. But evidence does not care about credentials. And the corundum hypothesis has gained traction where it matters most among engineers, materials scientists, and a growing number of archaeologists willing to examine the data regardless of who collected it. To be clear, the corundum discovery does not validate everything Hancock has ever proposed. His broader theories about lost civilizations remain contested. But on this specific question, how the ancient Egyptians cut granite with a precision that still astonishes modern engineers, the evidence supports his challenge. And if they really did deliberately use corundum-based slurries, then their technological profile must be rewritten. It would mean they understood mineral hardness far beyond what Egyptologists had assumed. It would mean they maintained long-distance trade networks to source industrial materials unavailable in the Nile Valley. It would mean they developed processing techniques grinding corundum to optimal particle sizes and mixing slurries to precise consistencies that qualify as genuine material science. They were not primitive. They were brilliant. And they have been waiting 4,000 years for someone to notice. The discovery of corundum forces a question that should keep every archaeologist awake at night if we miss this. An entire abrasive technology hiding in plain sight on surfaces examined by thousands of researchers, then what else have we missed? How many ancient techniques have been dismissed as impossible simply because no one used the right tools to look? In a tribology lab, Dr. Masoud Gharb looked through a microscope at a granite cut made more than 4,000 years ago and saw corundum where no one had ever thought to look. In a workshop, Nick Giza dragged a copper blade loaded with corundum slurry across a granite block and watched it cut smoothly, quickly, and precisely, just as it must have done when the pyramids were young. And Graham Hancock spent 40 years being told he did not understand ancient Egypt, mocked at conferences, dismissed in journals called a fraud on television, and ignored by the very institutions that should have been asking the same questions he was asking. Then he brought proof. Not theory, not speculation. Physical evidence. Experimental replication. Materials science reviewed by credentialed scientists who had no reason to protect any narrative. The ancient Egyptians cut granite using corundum-based abrasive slurries, a sophisticated technology built on deep knowledge of mineral properties, long-distance trade networks for sourcing rare materials, and techniques refined across generations. They were not struggling with inadequate tools. They were mastering their world. And if Hancock was right about this, after 40 years of being told he was wrong, then what else might we still be wrong about? The proof is in the corundum, and the corundum is in the granite. If this changed how you see ancient history, subscribe now.